Guys, today we're talking about the El Chapos of sneaker resellers. See, when you think of a sneaker reseller, you might be thinking of the guy on Instagram that's asking 50 bucks extra on top of the retail price of the latest Jordan 1 release. Now, while these are the vast majority, today I'm talking about the biggest resellers and their biggest scams to date. Kicking us off, we have Marcus Jordan, the son of arguably the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. You see, in 2016, with the financial help from he founded his very own high-end sneaker boutique, Trophy Room. This was inspired by the trophy room that Michael Jordan had in their home growing up. Of course, being Michael Jordan's son, it does come with some perks, so he was immediately able to do collaborations with his store, Trophy Room, and Jordan Brand. The first of these being the Jordan 23 Trophy Room, with many others following like the Jordan 17 and one of the most popular, the Jordan 5 Trophy Room collaboration from 2019. But it wasn't until 2 years later, in 2021, when they would create one of the most controversial sneakers ever made, the Jordan 1 Chicago Trophy Room. Now, at the time, the Jordan 1 silhouette was the most popular on the market, and the Chicago colorway on a Jordan 1 is arguably the most popular of all time. Combined, it made everybody interested in this sneaker release. The first problem with this Trophy Room version was that it was going to be limited to just 12,000 pairs. All of the pairs were numbered, and this wouldn't even be close enough to fulfilling the immense amount of demand that this sneaker carried. The second and biggest issue, which lands this sneaker in the most controversial category, in the weeks leading up to the time where they would actually drop, a bunch of images flooded social media platforms of a ton of resellers somehow having tons of pairs. Some of these resellers had hundreds of pairs and all seemed to be flexing somehow, with shoes held up to their head or just boxes stacked up behind them. This obviously left everybody wondering, where did they get these from? The leading theory is that Marcus Jordan and his store Trophy Room decided to sell a lot of the sneakers that they had to these sneaker resellers for 10 times the retail price. This is called backdooring, something that has existed in the sneaker game for a very long time. However, this case of backdooring was by far the most controversial because to a lot of people it just seemed so comically blatant. So the sneaker itself retailed for $190. However, according to a lot of the sneaker resellers, who by the way anonymously disclosed that they got these sneakers from Trophy Room themselves, said that they paid up to $1,200 per pair. $1,200 sounds like an insane amount of money to spend on a pair of sneakers to us. However, for one of these sneaker resellers, that was an amazing price because at that time they were able to sell this pair of shoes before the release for up to $5,000. Some of these sneaker resellers went even further than just disclosing the fact that they managed to backdoor these pairs from Trophy Room. They also showed tracking information for shipments from Orlando, where Trophy Room store is located. And this proof of tracking information was followed by images of the actual shipments turning up. So if these allegations are true, and Marcus Jordan and his store Trophy Room decided to backdoor all of these pairs, that means he was able to make millions of extra dollars compared to if he just sold them for retail price, which would make Marcus Jordan one of the biggest sneaker resellers. However, all of this money that they would have been able to get off of this release might not have been worth it, because to this day, Trophy Room and Marcus Jordan still haven't been able to shake off these backdooring allegations. And as we're leading up to the next Jordan 1 that they're just about to release, this new Jordan 1 Low, it seems like a lot of people are finding it hard to get excited because they have doubts that they'll even be able to get them for retail price and that most of these pairs have already been backdoored as well, especially seeing the amount of early pairs for this Jordan 1 that's been floating around online. So they may never be able to get rid of their reputation. Just like this next reseller who, like Marcus, also has some very powerful connections. Herbert, who owned a sneaker reselling business called West Coast Streetwear that was pulling in $200,000 monthly. Now, pictures of Joe's blurred face next to hundreds, if not thousands of sneakers was very common. It also showed that anonymity was a key part of his operation. However, when he decided to do an article with Bloomberg, that's when his whole business fell apart. The article that was written up seemed to really just be focused on the fact that this was a kid who has a massively successful business and it's pretty impressive. It was mostly about the day-to-day operations and how he managed to start this entire thing. They didn't reveal his face or anything like that. However, right at the end of this article, when they were wrapping things up, he called up the writer of the article from a phone number belonging to an Ann Herbert. Curious, the writer decided to look this name up and discovered that Ann Herbert was one of the highest ranking Nike employees. She was the vice president of Nike and the manager of the North America franchise. She was instrumental in accelerating the consumer direct offense, which was the initiative that helped fuel the sneaker resale boom. The writer, trying to connect these dots, also noticed something a little bit strange. In the American Express bank statement that Joe provided the writer to prove how much money he was earning through his West Coast Streetwear business, Anne's Herbert name appeared on the statement. The writer obviously asked Joe about this. Who is Anne Herbert? He acknowledged that that was his mother. However, he said that she was so high up at Nike, she had to stay away from whatever he was doing. He insisted that she should not be mentioned in this article, and shortly after that, he cut contact with Bloomberg. Obviously, they went ahead with this article mentioning all of this, and less than a week after this article was published, Anne Herbert resigned from Nike entirely. Now, obviously, this sent the internet into a frenzy with a ton of different conspiracies floating around online, which forced the CEO of Nike to make a statement. He basically went on about how important it is that customers trust them. However, the coincidence of Joe operating a sneaker reselling business while his mom specifically oversaw the operations of the Nike Sneakers app, which is the platform where Nike sells all of their hyped up sneakers that usually end up reselling. This made people certain that Anne had some kind of role in helping her son get to where he is. Even if she wasn't directly supplying him with hyped up Nike sneakers, maybe she gave him stock numbers or helped introduce him to some of her connections that could help accelerate his business profits. And her resignation from Nike right at the time where this article was published just made everything seem so much more suspicious. And now West Coast Streetwear's Instagram page and website is all shut down. So maybe if he just didn't use his mom's phone or credit card, all of us would have never known about any of this. But one simple mistake made this one of the biggest sneaker reseller fails of all time. But the next reseller on this list made way more than just one mistake. In fact, this person wasn't even trying to hide anything. Cedaz is a YouTuber mainly focused on replica sneakers. In fact, some videos on his YouTube channel are even tutorials on how other people can obtain fake sneakers. Now, this isn't exactly uncommon. There's plenty of replica sneaker YouTubers out there. However, Cedaz, or his real name Eben Fox, landed himself in extremely hot water. And that's because he got hit with a lawsuit from none other than Nike themselves. You see, alongside making YouTube videos about fake shoes, he also actively promoted replica sneaker sellers and also resold some himself. In fact, according to Nike's lawsuit, which is still ongoing by the way, it calls Cedaz the ringleader of organized counterfeit trafficking communities. In short, the lawsuit that was filed said that Cedaz and his business partners utilized their following to promote and sell fake sneakers from PandaBuy, which is a Chinese marketplace known for its counterfeit products. So Cedaz would use his Discord groups or Reddit pages and basically utilize his following in order to promote the sale of these fake shoes, hold discounts so people could purchase them, and even hold some giveaways. Now, unlike the last story where being anonymous was key to the operation, Cedaz did the complete opposite. Him being a YouTuber, it was key for him to be able to promote his own business. So all Nike really had to do was just visit his YouTube page, where they would find a ton of incriminating YouTube videos. One Nike specifically referenced in the lawsuit was where he bought a fake pair of Nike Air Force Ones and took them to a Nike store and returned them. The Nike employees at that store actually gave him a refund for $118. And then as he was walking out of the store, he said that if he wanted to, he could do the same process with 10 pairs of shoes and make $900. So all of these videos combined made gathering information for this lawsuit pretty straightforward for Nike. This whole situation is still pretty fresh, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But after reading the pages of evidence that Nike has against Cedaz, it's not looking very good. However, getting sued proved literally impossible for the next reseller, because he sold $30,000 worth of fake shoes and got out of it untouched. A man from Melbourne bought 7 pairs of shoes totaling the value of $30,000. So he bought them from a sneaker reseller who was just 17 years old. $30,000 for 7 pairs of shoes sounds like a ridiculously large amount. However, these specific shoes were the Jordan 1 Dior collaboration. And considering the resale value of that specific shoe, the buyer obviously thought he was getting a great deal, only paying $3,800 to $10K per pair. However, after receiving the sneakers, he started, looking them around. He spent a lot of money on these things and realized that there's some weirdness going on here. These things are definitely counterfeit. So he decided to do the normal thing and contact this 17-year-old who obviously ghosted him. The man, obviously pretty nervous at this point that he had just lost $30K, decided to contact the father of the person who sold him the shoes, which probably didn't get him very far, so he decided to take both of them to court. He told them his story and said that he even went with the father to a local authenticator store with these shoes, and the authenticator store actually knew this kid by name and said that he is a literal scam artist. But this is where things get pretty crazy, because the buyer was told by the judges that he was not going to be getting a refund. Because he knowingly bought these sneakers from a 17-year-old, it meant that this kid was not legally able to enter into a contract or issue any refunds. They ended by telling the buyer that if he had made this deal just a few months later when this seller turned 18, this would have been a very different story. Moral of the story, don't buy shoes from anybody under 18. This was one of the wildest cases because the sneaker reseller made it out without any repercussions. But the final reseller story is so massive that the case is now gone federal. I'm talking about one of the largest sneaker resale businesses on the planet, Zadeh Kicks, and how one sneaker release exposed his $85 million Ponzi scheme. So this is also a case that is currently ongoing. All of this is alleged. The owner of the sneaker resale business, Malakzadeh, or better known as Zadeh Kicks, is being charged with money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit bank fraud. This man was the sneaker reseller to sneaker resellers. Basically, his website offered super hyped up sneakers way before their official release at a much lower price than the market is expecting. However, what was actually happening was that Zadeh Kicks would sell all of these shoes as a pre-order, so they'd take the money from anybody buying from his website, all while he didn't have any of the physical product at the time and had to wait till the shoes officially launched and try and buy them himself. So the delivery time for him to actually fulfill these orders were up to an entire year. The court documents allege that he advertised, sold, and collected payments from customers for pre-orders, knowing he could not satisfy all orders placed. So while this man was living good, and he was living good by the way, he had Rolls Royces, Lamborghinis, Porsches, an entire exotic car collection, his customers were waiting for their orders, which were nowhere to be seen. However, it wasn't until Nike released the Jordan 11 Cool Grey when everything fell apart. You see, the sneaker sold by Nike retailed for $225. However, Zadeh Kicks offered it for just $115. Because this deal was so amazing, 600,000 people ordered them. And this would be an immense amount of Nike's actual number of sneakers that they had made, leaving Michael no way to be able to fulfill these orders. So that's when he decided to go to his attorney, and that's when federal prosecutors stepped in. His fiancée, Bethany Markerman, the company's chief financial officer, was charged with conspiring with him. As of right now, both of them have pled not guilty, and both of them have also been released as they await trial or possibly get a plea deal from the government. However, if convicted, Zadeh Kicks could face up to 30 years in jail, making this the biggest sneaker reselling scam of all time. And if you don't want to get scammed by sneaker resellers, go and check out that video where we go over all of the latest sneaker releases so you know exactly how to buy them.